Das was born in an ultra family. But it is said that he came in contact with Vaishnavas when he was very young. Took initiation, chanted the holy names, and left his home to go to Bengal, where he sat in a lonely little forest and chanted at least 300,000 names, 192 rounds of the Mahamantra every day, without fail. Years before Lord Chaitanya's appearance. In Ekachakra in Radha Desh, Sri Balaram himself, Nityananda Prabhu, appeared. And this way everything was being orchestrated. Paramananda Puri appeared in Chikuta, in the south. And the great Madhavendra Puri, who was considered to be the very root of the tree of ecstatic love, made his appearance within this world. Madhavendra Puri was traveling around to various places, but he saw how materialistic and selfish and egoistic people were, and it broke his heart. It didn't break his heart because he was prejudiced, because he hated karmis. It broke his heart because he loved everyone, and he couldn't bear to see how they were wasting their lives. You see, the more selfless and compassionate you are, the more you actually feel for the ignorance of others. But that is a type of ecstasy. Madhavendra Puri had many great disciples, including Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Nityananda Prabhu, Paramananda Puri, Brahmananda Puri. Some say Jagannath Mishra, Advaitacharya. But one of his very favorite disciples was Ishvara Puri. It is said that Madhavendra Puri, after traveling around India for many years, going to Vrindavan, establishing the Gopal deity on Govardhan Hill, his wonderful pastimes with Kirchor Gopinath. During his last days in this world, his physical body appeared to be an invalid. And at that time, one of his disciples, Ramchandra Puri, came to his bedside, and he heard his guru crying in the ecstasies of the separation, in the mood of Srimati Radharani toward Krishna. Crying, "My Lord, you are infinitely merciful and kind. Please be kind upon me. You have left Vrindavan and gone to Mathura. In separation from you, what am I supposed to do?" He was crying in this way. It was the highest ecstasy of love and separation. Ramchandra Puri, his own disciple, told him, if you can't find Krishna, meditate on Brahman. Why are you in so much anxiety? He displeased his guru. Madhavendra Puri said, "Get out, I don't want to see your face." And after that, Ramchandra Puri, although he was still a sannyasi, he was still apparently a disciple. He broadcasted himself in that way. Hari. Special effects. What is that? His tendency was to find faults with others. Because he lost the grace of his guru due to his false pride, instead of finding pleasure in seeing the good in others, his pleasure was in criticizing others. During that same time, there was a disciple named Ishwara Puri, who with such a grateful heart felt it was the ultimate privilege of his life to clean the urine and stool from his guru's body, because his guru couldn't get up. And when he heard his guru Madhavendra Puri crying in separation, he recognized that this is the highest ecstasy of ecstatic love of God. And for the pleasure of his guru, day and night, Ishwara Puri, while he cleaned him and massaged him and did all menial things for him, although he was a learned sannyasi, he was constantly singing Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's teachings, and Krishna's names to his guru. And Madhavendra Puri was so very pleased that he said, "Bless you, my child. I pray and I bless you to attain unmotivated love for Lord Krishna." And by that blessing for this very simple menial service, it's very incredible, because Ishwara Puri was a great scholar and he was a very, very austere sannyasi. But what made him distinct from all the other great scholars and sannyasi ascetics was how humble and menial he was willing to serve and please his guru. Whether it meant giving lectures to millions of people or cleaning urine and stool, he didn't see a difference. Whatever pleased his guru was his life and soul. That was the character of Ishwara Puri. And therefore, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was to accept him as his spiritual master. All of these divine personalities were in different places. And little by little, they all started coming to Navadvip. And Sri Advaita Acharya, he had a house in Shantipur. He married a very, very great, noble, pure-hearted lady named Sita Devi. He had a big family. While he was living in Shantipur, he also had a house in Navadvip. And Advaita Acharya became the leader of all the Vaishnavas. He was a scholar who was teaching the scriptures, but he was unlike any other teacher in Navadvip, because everyone else was teaching the scriptures from a perspective of how to satisfy your selfish desires, or get some mystical powers. or get liberation from the sufferings of this world. But Sri Advaita Acharya, he explained every word of every verse of every scripture there was in its essence of how to attain the ecstatic love of Krishna that is within us. And hardly anyone took him serious, because no one wanted ecstatic love of Krishna. They wanted money. They wanted power. They wanted more children. They wanted better houses. They wanted revenge over their enemies. They wanted the fame of being great. Advaita Acharya saw the condition of the world. And even the highest seat of learning in the world, Navadvip, what was the condition? Due to compassion and love for all beings, Sri Advaita was crying. He couldn't be happy with his own ecstatic love for Krishna if he was seeing others without it. Even people who were very, very apparently, materialistically very happy, healthy, beautiful, prosperous, he cried for them. Because he knew it was just a matter of a little time till old age, disease, and death is going to destroy all of that. And even temporarily, their so-called happiness is only distracting them from the real happiness that is within us. The ecstatic love for God. And he saw how even, what to speak of the atheistic people, even the so-called religious people, even the so-called gurus and great philosophers and representatives of scriptures, they were not teaching people how to love God. They were teaching people either how to better enjoy material resources through your religious practice, or annihilate all materialism. Annihilate everything. But to love God, to utilize all the beautiful things in the material and spiritual world as an expression of love of God, that's the highest truth. He didn't see it anywhere. At the same time, Srivas Thakur and his three brothers, Sri Ram, Sripati, Srinidhi, they also came before Lord Chaitanya from Sri Hatha. And they moved to Navadvip. And they would associate with Advaita Acharya. There was a small group of devotees. Haridas Thakur came there, Srivas, Advaita, and some others. And they would discuss Krishna and chant the names of Krishna and try to invite other people, but nobody was interested. Sri Advaita Acharya was very special. His form of worship was so simple. He knew everything. He could perform the most elaborate yajnas. He could do the most intense forms of meditation. He was the most philosophically astute scholar. But yet, he would worship the Lord by just offering tulsi leaves and Ganges water and chant the holy names. You see, it is not the ritual that helps us to make spiritual advancement. however simple or elaborate it is. It's to the degree we want to purify our own heart and please Krishna through the execution of the ritual. Advaitacharya felt that in this age of Kali, now and to come, only if the Supreme Lord Krishna descends from Goloka Vrindavan to reveal his divine pastimes and teach the chanting of the holy names according to his own compassion, can people reach that destination. And he had absolute faith. If he just offered tulsi leaves and Ganges water while chanting Krishna's names, Krishna would definitely appear. And that's what he did. On the banks of the Ganges, he just offered simple water and simple leaves, something anyone can do, but with such compassion upon all living beings. He was crying for you and me. And he would tell the devotees, 100% without doubt, Krishna's coming. Because he must, because he will answer the prayers of his devotee. And Srivas and his brothers were doing kirtan day and night, trying to invoke Krishna to come to this world. At that time, Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi, they had 8 daughters. Each one of them, in their infancy, died. They did special worship of the Lord in their temple, Shalagram, because they wanted a child. Instinctively, it was Krishna in their heart that wanted to take birth, and it was Krishna that was giving him that desire for a child. And Balaram appeared. Just like in Krishna's Leela, before Krishna appeared in the heart of Devaki, first Balaramji did. He was transferred to Rohini. So our acharyas explain that the 8 daughters represent the 8 coverings of the ego of this material world. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and the ego. These are the 8 material coverings of material creation. First, attachments to these things must be removed. And Balaram, who is the original guru, is the one who prepares our heart for Krishna. When Vishwarup was born, he was so beautiful and full of all good qualities. They were so happy. But unlike materialistic people who, when they get what they want from God, then they don't do their worship so much anymore, because they don't need Him. They say, thank you. We'll see you next time I need you. Rather, they increase their worship by many times in gratitude for the child that they received. In the year 1485, the month of Magh, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was coming, Krishna, with the love of Sri Radha, appeared within the heart of Jagannath Mishra. And from Jagannath Mishra was transferred to the heart of Sachi Devi. It was not in any way the way material children are born. There wasn't physical contact. Jagannath Mishra one day told Sachi Devi, I had a dream. It wasn't exactly a dream, it was a vision, where I saw this infinite light enter into my heart, and then I saw that infinite light enter into your heart. And Sachi Devi said, I had the same dream. And soon after that, they realized she was pregnant. And after that pregnancy, incredible things started happening. First of all, they were so happy. They didn't know why they were so happy. They were in ecstasy 24 hours a day, both Sachi Devi and Jagannath Mishra. And people kept doing things for them, giving them gifts, giving them cloth. Sachi Devi one day told Jagannath Mishra that last night, I don't know, but I was seeing all these celestial beings offering obeisances to the child in my womb. I was seeing celestial beings offering prayers of worship to the child. They understood it was not an ordinary person that had taken shelter within her womb. They eagerly awaited. 13 months passed, and the child remained in the womb. So they started to get worried, because 13 months is a long time. So they consulted Nilambar Chakravarti Thakur, the father of Sachi Devi, who was one of the greatest astrologers and seers of the truth and the future in the whole world. And Nilambar Chakravarti, he did a reading, and he told the mother and father that this child is a divine being, and this child is waiting for the supremely most auspicious time to be born. It was in the year 1486, during the month of Palgun. It was a full moon night. And it was also a time of a lunar eclipse. Now in India, traditionally, an eclipse is considered extremely inauspicious. When Rahu covers the moon. Some people say that, anything that's cooked at that time is impure, and everything's impure. And in those days, people were very superstitious. And if they weren't superstitious, they took ritualistically, very seriously, all these auspicious and inauspicious things. So, in order to counteract the inauspiciousness of an eclipse, the recommended process was to chant the names of Hari, in the river Ganges especially, to not get contaminated and not have your material life disturbed. So millions of people were chanting the names of Hari. And during that time, Srivas and his brothers, they saw nobody ever chants Krishna's names. They would chant some demigods or goddesses' names for material benefits from time to time, but nobody ever was chanting Krishna's names. But now everyone is chanting. Srivas said, "Let this eclipse last forever." And both the Hindus and the Muslim people, they saw millions and millions of Hindus chanting Hari, Hari, and it was so contagious, they all started imitating him, going Hari, Hari. Everyone in all directions was crying out, Hari, Hari. And that was the most auspicious time. Very interesting. Sometimes what is most auspicious is most auspicious. Because sometimes what is most auspicious brings people to really take shelter of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya was coming to teach pure love of God through the chanting of the holy names. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami said that Lord Chaitanya, he made a garland, a mala, with the flowers of Krishna's names and Krishna Prem, love of Krishna. And with his own loving hands, he put that garland around the whole world. So when millions and millions and millions of people were filling the entire land with the loud chanting of the holy names, the Lord appeared. And he didn't cry. He smiled. Did you ever see a baby like this? He came out of the womb of his mother and he smiled because he heard everyone chanting the names of the Lord. He was so happy. And as soon as they saw this little baby with a golden complexion and lovely lotus-like eyes, whoever saw him fell in love with him. Uncontrollable love poured from their hearts toward this little baby. And when all the devotees heard about this, they all wanted to come and do their pujas and offer their prayers and their blessings to the child. Advaita was in Shantipur, and he sent his wife Sita on a palanquin. And when she saw little baby Nimai, she was thinking that the same Krishna of Gokul has appeared with a golden complexion. And Malini, the wife of Srivas, and Srivas himself came. When the Lord was born, even though nobody even knew he was the Lord, the devotees became so happy. Advaita Prabhu and Haridas Thakur were in Shantipur. All of a sudden, they started crying in ecstasy, leaping and dancing with each other. And people were wondering, have they gone crazy? They did. For Krishna, because they could understand something supremely auspicious was happening. This way, all of the devotees from all these different directions came spontaneously to offer their prayers and blessings for little baby Nilambar Chakravarti. He did the astrology. He said, this is a divine being who has the power to deliver the whole world. He's going to nourish the hearts of everyone. And then one Brahmin came. And this Brahmin, he explained how this child is Lord Narayan himself, who has descended from the spiritual world. He will embody all spiritual transcendental qualities. He will cause the whole world to chant the holy names. He will deliver from the cycle of birth and death anyone who takes shelter of him. He will give supreme pleasure to anyone who accepts the gift that he has to offer. And then, through his astrology, he saw when this child is 24 years old, he's going to take sannyas. But he decided not to say that part, because he didn't want to mix the happiness with something else. And when Jagannath Mishra heard what this Brahmin was saying, he was so happy. He wanted to give him charity, but he had nothing to give. He was just a simple Brahmin. So Jagannath Mishra, whatever he had, he was giving to everyone who was blessing his son. And he fell at the feet of this Brahmin and cried, offering his thanks. Little Nimai, there was a name-giving ceremony. The ladies, Sachi Devi and her friends, they named him Nimai because he was born under a neem tree. And Nilambar Chakravarti and the Brahma named him Vishwambar because he was going to give nourishment to the universe. And Jagannath Mishra and others, because he had beautiful golden limbs, they named him Gauranga. And other people, because he was the beloved son of Sachi, they called him Sachinandana. Little Nimai, for 1 month, according to tradition, was in a little hut near the Ganges with Sachi Devi and the family. And the little boy, he captivated everyone's hearts in such a way that their life and soul was only to make him happy. And the greatest suffering in their life was to see him cry. A little Nimai would start to cry. It was unbearable because they loved him so much. They would do anything and everything for him, but nothing would stop his crying until when there's nothing else you can do, you call out for God. They all chanted the holy names. And as they chanted, little Nimai, he smiled. This beaming smile that totally drowned them in ecstasy. And Nimai would cry again a few minutes later, and they knew exactly what they had to do. They'd clap their hands and chant, and Nimai would smile. Sometimes he would laugh. This little infant baby would laugh and laugh and laugh and smile and raise his arms. It brought them such satisfaction. And sometimes they were scared because they knew that 8 of Sachi Devi's children had died. They were afraid for his health. The Lord inspired them with this fear just to get them to stay with him and chant, practically day and night. The family members, the friends, the devotees were gathered around the little baby, clapping their hands and singing the holy names of the Lord. After 1 month, Sachi Devi performed the ritual of going to the Ganges to take her bath with little Nimai and do puja for Shashti, who is a demigoddess, who is supposed to protect baby children. And she did all these pujas and rituals. And then she entered into the house of the family. Now one may ask, Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi are crest jewel of self-realized yogis. Why were they doing these rituals, which are usually done by very superstitious people? Yes? Even in Yashoda and Nanda, we read about when Krishna, after Trinavarta came, and they saw Krishna laying there. After Putana, they would put cow dung in different places of his body, and they would whisk cow tails around Krishna and do all kinds of rituals, which seems quite superstitious, doesn't it? Why? In India, there's so many superstitious people. Srila Prabhupada said that his mother used to take saliva and put it on his forehead every day, her own. He said, I never knew, to this day, I don't know why she did it. But it was for his protection. Some Bengali tradition to protect a baby or a small child. So there are superstitions everywhere. But in my travels in the world, India is very advanced in this particular field. And here these great Paramahamsa devotees are doing superstitious things. They're worshipping Chandi and doing this little ritual and that little ritual and another, just to protect the baby. So one may ask, why? It seems like it's very ordinary. But what we must understand is they were doing it out of love for Krishna, out of love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You see, it really doesn't matter whether you do something that's mathematically, scientifically astute. Doesn't matter whether you're doing something that's logically proven by all the previous acharyas, or whether you're doing a superstitious ritual. What matters is our motivation. That's the essence of what the great acharyas are teaching us. So because they were doing it pure love for God, their little superstitious things of Nanda and Yashoda or Sachi Devi was the highest expression of pure devotional service. Because Krishna's bhavagrahi. He sees our sincerity. Therefore, when even the greatest philosophers, the greatest spiritual scientists, the most logical and advanced yogis and saints, when they hear about these little rituals of Sachimata, they cry in ecstasy. Why? Because they see, they know. It's done with pure love. Advaitacharya, just some leaves and water. Don't see leaves. But it was the highest ritual. It was the highest offering of love. So we must understand this very carefully, especially here in India. The essence is bhakti. Bhakti is based on knowledge. Knowledge that the jiva, the eternal, that the soul within all of us is eternal. Jivera Swarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. And the nature of the soul is eternally the servant of Krishna. And the fulfillment of service is service with love. So with this philosophical understanding, which is the very essence of service with true love, without selfish motivation, for the pleasure of the Lord, even if it is in the shape of an apparent ritual or a superstition, it's pleasing to Krishna. That doesn't mean we should start doing superstitious stuff. It means we should focus, whatever we do, should be done with this philosophical knowledge of love of God. Otherwise, we're not following in the footsteps of the acharyas. And then, when we hear about Sachi Devi's different ways of protecting the Lord, we understand this is the goal of life. One time, when little Nimai was just crawling, he learned to crawl. This is wonderful. Krishna tells in Gita, I'm the ability in man, the strength of the strong, the intelligence of the intelligent. And we see so many people climbing mountains. And we see demigods flying in the sky, so many people, and they're all getting their powers from Krishna. And here, Krishna is learning how to crawl. And he actually learned really fast. And he crawled really fast. He was crawling around, and Mother Sachi and all of her friends, it was really hard to keep up with little Nimai crawling around all over the place. He was very curious. And one day, there was a gigantic, monstrous snake in the courtyard of Sachi Devi's house. And little Nimai saw this big snake and crawled really fast right up to the snake and grabbed the snake's tail. And the snake couldn't get away. So the snake coiled up in a circle, and little Nimai laid on top of the coiled serpent. He was smiling and laughing. He was laughing quite loud for a little child. So they were wondering, where's Nimai? Where's Nimai? They heard his laughing, so they came running, and they saw this giant snake. And he's laying in the coils. They were horrified. What to do? If we bother this snake, he may bite Nimai and kill him, or he may strangle him by coiling around his body and squeezing. They were beside themselves. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what they couldn't do. Little Nimai was smiling, laughing, and they were crying and crying and crying. Our child is going to be killed by this snake. They started crying, Garuda, Garuda, because Garuda is the killer of snakes. They couldn't get close because they were afraid if they did, they would waken the snake and the snake would kill the child. At the same time, they were just besides themselves in total anxiety of love. And the snake, who actually happened to be a Nantashesha, who wanted to see the Lord and do some seva, when he saw all the anguish he was causing the relatives, the snake uncoiled and started to slither away. And little Nimai tried to grab him again.